I hit the gritty to Ohio cause I needed somewhere 40. What? Man, I feel like Nick at 30. 100-pound gap on the bibbity that I glitched. Chop a goon down like he Drake a grimace shake. Low tape of face, start to think that I'm ninja. Pull the whip Phantom and I'll pull the with the Rizzler. I just baby Gronk till she hawk 2 and then you kiss her. Dang. Young Giga Chad, I don't play around with them Sigmas. I'm from Wheeling Woods, is that understood? Season 6, Nitro Tower, you can't go there. Leave it done, gang, yeah. Leave it done. I'm so tilted towers, I think that I got a shoulder, yeah. Hold up.
Welcome to Discourse Dudes. I'm Trevor.
I'm Dylan.
And where are your Discourse Dudes? I don't want to say we are the Discourse Dudes. Saying such a thing would just feel presumptuous, but for the next hour or so, we will be your Discourse Dudes.
Is the your possessive, or is it like a hometown pride your? Like your Boston Celtics, or do they own us?
I mean, I do like to think that I am trying to engender a sense of kind of like intimacy between us and the audience here. So I guess probably kind of the former, I guess. But if you want to throw in a little bit of the latter, that works too.
Yeah, tell us we're bad boys and make us do stuff.
So it's March. Before we get onto the list, I did want to just kind of, speaking of the audience and intimacy, I wanted to offer them just a brief kind of glimpse behind the kimono, as they say, because I feel like we didn't kind of give any background to like when we are doing this podcast. And I think that's important.
True, yeah.
Because this isn't a thing we've been doing, you know, at the end of each month. As the year goes on, we're sitting down kind of towards the end of the year here in late October. We're starting this project because I think the items on this list, the topics of discourse we're going to be talking about, I think they've benefited from some kind of like, you know, distance, both literal and emotional.
Yeah, you got to let them off gas a little bit.
And the release schedule I'm thinking of, I think these will start coming out around like probably mid-November, and we'll release them in such a way that the program will be wrapping up probably the first week of January, because of course we won't be able to talk about the discourse for December until December has been completed.
That's right.
So we'll be here keeping you company, reminiscing at the end of the year, and then helping you ring in 2025 with all this 2024 discourse. I think that'll be fun. And
will the project continue? Too early to say. I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate even if we knew, I think, to announce it just yet.
Before I even had the idea to turn this into this little sit down with you, the thought of spending another entire year keeping track of Twitter discourse has kind of felt me with dread. So we're going to see how I feel, you know, when this is all over.
It's a labor that you've undertaken.
And a labor of love, no doubt. But yeah, still a labor.
Yeah, it is funny because like we were kind of giggling about the election year, and it's funny that we're recording all of this like before that happens, and then that's going to happen, and we'll feel however we feel about all the stuff involving it.
Yeah.
One of your original theses, that's the plural version of the word thesis that I sometimes enjoy saying.
Oh, okay. I was confused.
Was that you wanted to see if we got dumber through the year.
Right.
And I really think election years are the pinnacle of watching everybody get dumber as we go, right?
That's a good point. And, you know, returning to that thesis, we've moved on to March, and I think March is kind of the first month where we really have settled into the year. So I think this is the episode where I think things are going to kind of start cooking on this one.
It's also the month where we all celebrate my birthday. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Look at that. Well, not really happy birthday because that was, but you know, just happy retrospective birthday, I guess.
I'm hungry for discourse. Let's get into the list.
Me too. Let's get into it. You know, last time we sat down, we talked about February 2024. We discussed such thrilling topics as the Madam Web promo cycle.
Classic. The
Willy Wonka experience in Glasgow.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Larry David assaulting Elmo on live TV, and one nerdy former child star's subsequent emotional breakdown in response.
Right.
Today, we will be talking about March 2024. As happenstance would have it, I have just as many topics of discourse on this month's list as I did for February. So yeah, let's begin. First item of discourse for March 2024. We referenced this one actually, I think maybe on the last episode. Not safe for work influencer shares stats from birthday gangbang.
Oh, yay. I love this one.
This one was pretty fun, I remember.
I think her name's Ayala, right? Because wasn't the
Yes.
classic, it was a poll, or not a poll, it was like a number of possible outcomes of the data of her birthday orgy. And I believe it was specifically a cream pie orgy.
Okay.
Because as I recall, there were three main outcomes.
Yes.
And the three main outcomes were came in Ayala, however you say her name, came in a fluffer, was the second one.
Right, because a lot of people, I feel like with orgies, you don't think about the logistics, especially gangbangs. You can't just all show up and just be waiting around to fuck the star of the event, right?
Theoretically, only one person can come in AL at a time, right? And then the third outcome, of course, the legendary third outcome, didn't come.
Ah, bummer. Who wants to be the guy at the birthday gangbang who doesn't come, right? At least give me a fluffer.
I think sometimes, if depending on your temperament, probably watching like 60 dudes come in a couple of broads makes it a little hard for you, I'd imagine.
You think you might lose your appetite?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think we can give this one the boom.
It's great.
What a way to kick off the month.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really captured my imagination for sure. Boom!
Number 2, another one that's become kind of like a frequently recurring topic, and I doubt this will be the end of it. Does Sydney Sweeney hosting SNL indicate that wokeness is dead? This is a good Sydney Sweeney bullet because I feel like it speaks to the Sydney Sweeney phenomenon that we've only previously been able to touch on, but haven't really gotten into the heart of. This concept that just by being in the public eye with, there's no more tasteful way to say this, with like relatively large breasts.
Right. Being a white lady with big boobs that everybody likes.
It's done something to disrupt this perceived sexless, pro-woke stranglehold that the left has had on the media that conservatives will convince you is a thing.
I mean, look, I don't know that I would charge wokeness with the sanitization, the desexualization of the culture. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a weird premise to begin with, and it sounds like a grifter premise, of course.
Yep.
We could get into a heady conversation. There's a lot of reasons why Gen Z is uncomfortable with sex and media, but it didn't though, because there weren't like aftershock discourse about like Sydney Sweeney thinks it's disgusting the way that you people are objectifying her or whatever, as she's like her Insta posts are going mega platinum or whatever.
I haven't seen her come out too vehemently in opposition to any of that. Like maybe there has been a story about where she's addressed it.
Okay. Well, it's you feel the temptation to boom this because it's been the year of Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the core of the issue, isn't it?
I feel like it is.
Wow, we're really horny about this lady. What does it mean?
Yeah. We've been wondering if SNL has been going to get a boom, via its multiple entrants on this list. I don't think this is the last one. So if this doesn't get the boom, there's still time. Also, of course, there's still time for Sydney Sweeney to get the boom. I feel like this one deserves it, though, because like I've said, this does feel like a very integral bullet when it comes to understanding the Sydney Sweeney 2024 narrative.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't feel super strong about the boom, but I don't feel like I can oppose it all the way to a doom. So I'll give it that marginal boom.
All right, let's give it the boom.
Boom!
Next up, this made for a fun week on Twitter. I specifically remember the version of the original Star Wars trilogy broadcast on TV in Chile had beer commercials spliced into the actual movie.
Yeah, they would do like match cuts that made it seem like the movie was still going, but it was like a very early integrated content advertisement idea, I feel like.
That's right. What was the brand name for the beer? I think it was Cerveza Crystal.
That seems right. I do remember feeling like a little grumpy about this trend because there was a lot of copycat shit, and I felt like it got old quick.
Let's say how it would work though, because you would be in Chile watching Star Wars on TV. Obi-Wan Kenobi would be revealing to Luke Skywalker the family history of his father being a Jedi. He reaches into his box of trinkets. You think he's going to pull out the lightsaber because you've seen this movie before, but no, what does he pull out? an ice cold can of beer and you get like Cerveza Cristal theme song for a few seconds before it goes back to the movie. Pretty interesting.
The original artifact is magical.
Yeah.
I'm pro the commercials. I love them.
I'm surprised to hear you come down on this trend too, because historically you have been a guy who likes a trend that is able to capture the imagination of the people, specifically in a way that results in kind of like riffs in the form of image edits.
I wish I could really articulate why it stopped working for me. I feel like there was like the editing of the original had such a perfect pace to it where it felt like a fluid motion. And I feel like pretty quickly the like democratized version of it started to just feel like, clunky kid edits. And I just felt like it was being watered down, diminished. But do I punish the trend? Because it was a really funny, and like I said, best word I can use for it, magical moment the first time I saw, the Obi-Wan lightsaber beer clip.
Sure. I do think, you're speaking to a very real thing that happens on Twitter where a meme will pop up and people will drive it into the ground extremely quickly.
Yeah.
And I think from a certain standpoint, you could probably say that happened here. But the moment was so much fun. I feel like I would have to fight you on this if you are tempted to give this a doom. I think this one is really deserving of a boom just because of what a good time everybody had with it.
I'm not going to give it a doom, but I'm going to give it what I think is quickly becoming a real deflating thing. I'm going to give it another marginal boom.
A light boom.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's fine. Boom! This one, I feel like we could kind of lean into the full doom here. Do you remember Bottle Night?
No, what's Bottle Night?
So Bottle Night was when not like a conservative account, I don't think, but some like real basic seeming dude came online was like, me and my wife have discovered this relationship hack. We call it Bottle Night. We both sit down with our own bottle of wine. We turn off our phones and turn off the TV and we just shoot the shit, each drinking a bottle of wine. And everyone was like, congratulations on inventing the concept of like having wine with your partner.
I have vague memories of this. Was the image of them like flatly looking into camera with their own bottles, perhaps one of them swigging straight from the spout?
That sounds like it could very well have been the case. I don't remember too much about this one. I do like the concept of, just the typical mediocre white guy getting online and being like, hey, I invented this thing. I'm disrupting relationships, basically. But I don't know if that's enough to get it into the boom column for me.
I'd feel very dubious about putting something like Bottle Night into the boom category. Although when you first said it, I thought you might be saying Bottle KNIGHT, which sounds like a pretty cool indie pixel art game.
Sure, or like weird kind of like Dark Souls build that you could use for PvP or something.
Oh yeah, the Bottle Night build, it's really good. You do all these roll catches.
Yeah. So we're going to give Bottle Night a doom.
Bye.
Moving on. Did you know that emo artists on TikTok have the worst lyrics?
I mean, I believe you, I take you at your word, but I don't remember this being a point of discussion personally.
This is kind of the first point of discourse that takes the shape of multiple Twitter users just kind of passing around and discussing a TikTok that they hate.
I do like hating on TikTok musicians. I do enjoy it a lot.
And I do remember this one had a pretty good specific example. I remember the artist in question had kind of like, I saw them pop up a few times on the timeline, some kind of like goth girl trio or something. And the lyric that was in the TikTok that has not left my head since this did trend, I think it was, you're a leashed dog, you're a beat dog on a leash. Pull the leash, control your life.
I mean, that made me laugh.
Do you remember that?
It is funny.
Yeah.
I don't think I can boom this though, because it's too marginal. I don't remember this popping that hard. That felt like the first time I'd heard those lyrics to me.
Sure. I agree. And like I said, whenever Twitter discourse is basically just in response to something happening on TikTok, it loses something for me.
Yeah.
So I feel comfortable dooming this.
And I mean, mainstream emo artists, not on TikTok, have already written some terrible lyrics. So,
That's true. Where is the bar? Next up. TikTok poster thinks Austin Butler is pretentious for citing The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as a childhood favorite movie. So this is another one where it's like, hey, look at what this person is saying on TikTok. Can we talk about this for a few days?
Yeah, I remember this being a point of discourse. It's credible to me. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a lot of people have seen that movie. I don't know.
Sure. Very mainstream film. I think this also speaks to like another larger trend we've seen where like maybe like the young, I don't want to like, discredit any particular generation, but maybe like younger generation people on Twitter kind of like, or I guess TikTok in this case, if you're not saying like Avengers Endgame or something like that, you're talking about like an old obscure movie.
These kids were raised on the editing pace of fucking Coco Melon. So the idea that a child could sit in front of a movie that wasn't like, disturbingly, disgustingly pandering to their short attention span, they can't even imagine it because it's a doomed generation and we're going to watch them crumble as we age.
And is it really so difficult to believe that somebody who is like a professional actor, their favorite childhood movie might be something that like resembles like an actual film?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can even hear it when these kids try to watch A New Hope, and they're like, "Oh, how do people watch that? It's so boring."
Again, I don't love these topics where it's basically just responding to something going on TikTok. I feel comfortable dooming this one as well.
Yeah, I want to doom it too, just because of how much of an old man shakes fist at cloud I sounded like just now.
Next up, this might be worth a Google, actually. Twitter was not impressed by a poem about genocide and laundry.
What now?
Do you remember this poem?
No, I don't remember this poem. Can I find it? Can you read it to me?
I am going to see if I can find it. Yes, it was posted March 6th by an account named Vinay Krishnan. The name of the poem, it's a prose poem, is "There's laundry to do and a genocide to stop." I'll read it to you in its entirety.
Okay.
There's laundry to do and a genocide to stop. I have to eat better and also avoid a plague. My rent went up $150. I'll need to pick up more shifts. 20 people died in Rafah this morning, and every major news outlet is stretching the limits of passive voice to suggest whole families may have leaped up through the air at missiles that otherwise had the right of way. I just got a notification that my student loan payments are starting up again and my phone isn't charged. My cousin got COVID for a fourth time and can no longer work or walk or even feed himself. The person across from me on the L train seems to fashion themselves a punk rock revolutionary, but they're not wearing a face mask, and that's the kind of cognitive dissonance that makes me want to steal batteries. Fascists keep winning primaries for both parties, and I think I gained a few pounds. The CDC just announced that there are no more speed limits on highways, and I think this Ativan is finally hitting. The NYPD Farmers Market only sells bad apples. Have you heard that one? Listen, it's warm today, too warm for March, but I don't have time to think through the implications because there's laundry to do and a genocide to stop.
Look, there's things about that poem that I think are clunky, mostly usage things. But I think bad internet poetry gets so much worse.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty strong case of bad internet poetry. I mean,
I liked that line. I almost giggled at that line about missiles that otherwise had the right of way. I think there's value here.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty basic observation that you can get to if you spend, even a relatively small amount of time within, certain circles online. I
don't like fashion themselves a punk rock revolutionary. There's usage things about it that I don't like. But come on.
A punk rock revolutionary.
The genre of bad internet poetry has given us like he hated drama and I was fucking Shakespeare. I mean, this to me feels like it has a clear message. It has kind of a bit that it's doing about listing kind of banalities of modern living and juxtaposing them against the darkness of our late period of Western civilization.
All right, well, the literary value of this poetry aside, that's not really what we're here to discuss.
What are we here to discuss?
Twitter spent several days basically passing this thing around and going, "Oh, brother." And I don't know if that's worth a boom. What do you think?
I don't know. What's the take? Is the take like, this is too earnest? What's the take? Why do they not like it?
I think people were opposed to like somebody publishing something like this as if it is some kind of very powerful statement about the cognitive dissonance of our times, when really anybody who's going to be reading this in this context, this is like, a general part of their everyday life.
Yeah, I understand that whenever a white American stands up and talks about how bad they think the genocide is from their perspective, that obviously they're centering themselves or whatever. But also, I feel like the privilege and the distance is kind of baked into the text of the poem. I don't know. This is too tangly and heady. I'm not feeling a boom anywhere here.
You're not feeling a boom. I feel fine dooming this one for sure. God, I wish I remembered more about this one because I feel like some good times may have been had. Joe Rogan interviews Zack Snyder.
It's a good headline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I couldn't show you the screenshot everybody was sharing or whatever.
Yeah, which again, I think is a minor shame just because Zack Snyder, say what you want about his movies. I enjoy some elements of some of the ones that I've seen. I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder guy, but he seems like just kind of like a relatively chill bro who has some actual ideas about his craft and stuff that are probably worth exploring,
Yeah, I just don't I just Googled it to see if anything about what he was wearing or anything struck me as familiar. And I don't know. I don't see anything here that I remember being passed around. So we got to doom it, unfortunately.
I think we unfortunately got to give Joe Rogan interviewing Zack Snyder the doom. Next up, a marriage counselor with multiple children contrasts his life with Seth Rogen's.
Okay, this does ring a bell.
Yeah, I think he was look at that Seth Rogen smoking all that weed. No children, no family. Meanwhile, I'm out here exercising, eating right, doing all the right things in my life. I basically I run on a schedule that allows me 27 hours per day. I'm nothing like Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so whiny.
Yeah, I don't even get the point, why? Why would you do this?
March so far has been a real whiny bitch month.
The bitching has begun. I remember my take was that I think we should all be thankful that Seth Rogen doesn't have any children because he would just be naming all those white babies after Wu-Tang Clan members.
Yeah. Or strains of weed.
Hey, Purple Kush, get in here and clean your room. Yeah. You want to doom this one?
I'll doom it. Yeah, I can't support this kind of discourse.
This one, kind of the rare, sad one that I feel like might be worth the boom anyway. Remembering Akira Toriyama, the famed Dragon Ball author and artist who, unfortunately passed away this past March. I do think he was, pretty old, but to lose somebody who is nothing short of an absolute legend, titan in their field. This guy's name is synonymous with an entire art form.
Got to be one of the top 5 most influential visual stylists of the modern age, like Keith Haring, Akira Toriyama. Yeah.
Dragon Ball is basically like a religion, if you're a certain type of person living in a certain part of the world.
Yeah, I feel like here's where I wanted to maybe get in with you on this is that I don't feel like we need to doom sad things. We can boom them because what we're saying is this was significant. This was capital D discourse. And I really think it was. I remember people for a good while after, it was everybody was click farming with Toriyama images and quotes and stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting because I feel like, this probably just speaks to Twitter's demographic, but we lost, famous people this last year who I would say are much more famous in a much more mainstream way than Akira Toriyama. But it was Akira Toriyama's death that probably got the biggest reaction out of Twitter.
I'd have to look at a list, but he's certainly extremely multi-sectional in terms of the demographics of people who love Dragon Ball, who love his stuff,
Yeah, and it was great to see what turned out to be a multi-week celebration of, his life and work. So I'll definitely give this one the boom.
I'm booming it. Boom!
Next up, one that may suffer from a bit of vagary on my part. I think this might be the last time on the list that this happens, though. I feel like things really start to click into place here. The 2024 Oscars.
Yeah, I watched them.
I feel like one reason why there might not be a more detailed bullet on the list for this is I can't really remember anything too specific happening.
Yeah, what did happen?
The 2024 Oscars. Obviously, if we were doing this a few years ago, this bullet would be a little more interesting. It would be something like Will Smith slaps Chris Rock in the face during 2020 whatever Oscars. But I don't think we had an event like that this year.
You know the image that was passed around from this? I do remember.
What was it?
John Cena naked holding the envelope for the costume Oscar over his penis.
Oh, yeah, his humiliation ritual, which the powers that be make sure that every hot guy in Hollywood has to go through in order to break them.
Naked or a dress. Funny naked or a dress. Not sexy naked. You can't be sexy naked. That's a different thing.
And once you start seeing this stuff, you start seeing it everywhere too. It really is all throughout the industry. Holly weird, I like to call it.
It doesn't all happen at the Diddy parties. Sometimes it happens right there on the stage at Hollywood's biggest night.
Hiding in plain view. I'll doom this. 2024 Oscars, not super memorable. Following up on some previous business with this next one, British royal family releases clearly photoshopped picture of Kate Middleton.
Okay, yeah, this is like where the Schizo nuts went overboard with this one, I remember.
Yeah, and which could have been avoided if you hadn't released a clearly doctored photo.
Yeah, you can just not release a photo at all and ignore the people, which is what the royals normally do, right?
Considering that they didn't do that this time, I kind of want to give this one the boom.
Sure, why not? We'll give both Kate Middleton discourse points a boom, just to overall boom that moment in time.
Boom! In retrospect, maybe Kate Middleton should have been a single recurring bullet, but I feel like these things are spaced out far enough that they might deserve their own ones.
Oh, sure. Almost a full month, probably.
Next up, another, I think this was another TikTok response. The dichotomy of looking tough but crying to Phoebe Bridgers in the shower.
Oh.
Do you remember this? This was some dude dressed in all black with a dumb little black beanie on. He had some piercings that I will say, to quote that poet earlier, made him look somewhat of a punk rock revolutionary.
The fashion of a punk rock
and he was making this TikTok where he was basically just like standing in front of his camera going like, the dichotomy is crazy because I look like this, like I look like a tough guy, but I listen to like Phoebe Bridgers and like Shiga Rose while crying in the shower.
Cool.
Yeah. Twitter, I will say Twitter fucking hated this dude.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their hate, it doesn't delight me in a way that makes me consider this for the boom category.
Would you say their hate flows through you?
I would say their hate is an asterisk on a whole section of the yard that I'm not interested in going in.
All right. So I feel like we're pretty comfortable giving this one a doom.
Wow, 3 for 3 Phoebe Bridgers dooms this year so far.
I could have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Next up, Neil Young announces return to Spotify.
What was the condition again? He's like, Joe Rogan admitted COVID was real, so I'm back now.
No, it was more like, they got him on Apple Music too. If I want to be really true to my morals, I would have to get off Apple Music. And if I did that, there would be very, very little way for anybody to listen to my stuff these days. So I give up. You win. It was a real kind of moment of admitting defeat, which takes a big man to do.
Kind of funny. It is kind of funny. And it is always delightful when somebody you like's back on the platforms and you can spin their stuff. I don't know.
Sure. People were happy to have Neil back.
I'm kind of still in this March area of just like, is this interesting?
Yeah, I feel like this one might be worth. I don't know if it's worth the boom. I feel like we could probably stick to a doom on this one.
Yeah, I'll give it a marginal doom. How about that?
That's fine. Next up, I remember enjoying this one and the discourse that sprung out around it. Do you remember Pavement's hospitality rider?
Oh, yeah. And people were like, somebody anyway was like, this is disgusting. What excess?
Right. And I just want to look up real quick because I remember it was very basic.
It was like hummus.
Pretty basic rider for a band. This tweet was kind of pitched to the public at large in a way that drives me personally crazy, which is to post that you cannot stop thinking about something. In this case, cannot stop thinking about Pavement's hospitality rider. This is right up there for me when people say something like, my boyfriend said blank, 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 or I had a dream last night in which blank, blank, blank.
Right. You're taking the information off of yourself in some way.
Yeah. So would it be worth going through Pavement's hospitality rider real quick, I think?
Let's hear it. Maybe we can boom or doom each individual item.
I don't know about that, but first they were very specific before we even get into a numbered list. They wanted endless fresh hot coffee and hot water setup with an assortment of herbal teas, honey, sugar, cream, 2 cut lemons, 2 cut limes. Starting out kind of basic, nothing crazy there. Now let's get into the numbered list. We have a mandatory meal buyout of $110. They specified they would like 11 $10 bills, please.
Extremely, extremely standard as like a food per diem.
Yep. A minimum of 20 pounds of clean ice cubes, 1 bucket separated for drinks.
Totally reasonable.
2 cases of small bottles of pure spring water, Evian equivalent.
Great water. Gotta stay hydrated. You're performing on stage.
I could probably give you these next couple bullets at once. 48 cold bottles of premium domestic beer, 24 cold bottles of premium imported beer or a good local microbrew.
Ooh, wow. 324 packs.
We got 4 containers of 100% pure juice, like orange, cranberry, apple, fresh, non-concentrate, please. 1 case of Coca-Cola Classic, 1 6-pack of spicy V8, another case of assorted other soft drinks such as Dr. Pepper, Sprite, a quart of 2% milk, and 1 container of vanilla or plain soy milk.
Got to take the bitter off that coffee, that piping hot coffee.
We've got potato chips, tortilla chips, salsa, a selection of assorted fresh fruit, a bakery fresh loaf of bread, 10 assorted fresh bagels, and 1 pack of cream cheese, 1 jar of chunky natural peanut butter. Nice to know that they're chunky guys, not smooth guys. 1 jar of preserves. You might want to make some kind of peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Just going through the rest. I see yogurt. I see dried soup. A 10-person tray of fresh cut vegetables and fresh meats and cheeses, just kind of like a charcuterie board, pretty standard.
Right.
1 issue of the New York Times, 1 issue of a local newspaper, 1 box of emergency vitamin C drink mix. Next to this one, they say important.
I've known people who sing professionally who like live and die by their emergency.
Interesting.
That's a thing.
Finally, we've got some wintergreen gum, some spearmint Altoids, 12 large clean towels, and just there's some afterthoughts here for please give us some forks and spoons and knives as well.
So is this a case of somebody who has never seen a tour writer before posting this being like, how would they need all this? And then people who have never seen tour writers before, it resonating with them? Is that what it is?
I do think so, because I'm looking at a lot of the responses to this post, and a lot of them are like, basic AF. Dried soup is the only thing that got an eyebrow raise out of me. This is pretty normal. Nothing weird here.
If you're touring in a couple of trucks, a couple of vans or whatever, you use the tour writer to replenish your food to continue to travel through the country. Right. Because you don't have time to stop and grocery shop all the time.
And I feel like even looking at things that are like the classic examples of the like truly exorbitant rider, I feel like the one that people always name check is Van Halen's, right? They would request a bowl of, I think just the green M&Ms, or like a bowl of M&Ms with all the green ones picked out of it or something.
Yeah, it was one or the other.
And the reason that they did this, actually, I've heard, is that because like if they got to a venue and they saw that was not taken care of, they would not be very trustworthy about like other more important things being taken care of, like the lights or like, the circuiting or something like that. So
yeah, Van Halen obviously famously used a lot of pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to make sure that like whoever was in charge of the setup was paying close attention.
But there's nothing too crazy on this one.
Yeah, you got to doom it, right? Although part of me is like kind of giggly at the idea of people who don't know about a thing weighing in on it with outrage also. And I like Pavement.
And here's another thing. I like hospitality riders. I think this is kind of an interesting thing that exists, and I like...
It is fun to get to see one, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of scratches a weird itch for me in the same way that I love learning about what death row prisoners select and eat as their last meals.
Can we boom a thing for our own, like, highly idiosyncratic reason?
I think so. I think we can give this one the boom.
All right, let's boom it. Why not?
Boom! Next up, we've got some more music to talk about right now, specifically coworker music. I think for a few days or a week, everyone on Twitter was wondering what is like the definition of coworker music.
Yeah.
I saw some pretty ridiculous examples that had me wondering if these people have ever worked a day in their life.
It's so much more intangible than, like, I think coworker comedy is like a much easier concept to codify, to wrap your head around, to quantify.
Yeah, because like my personal experience is that I've never had like too many coworkers that have been like really, really into music. The famous example that I cite to people when I talk about like conversations about music I've had with people I worked with. I once asked, I'll just background this very briefly by saying that I for the last 8 years or so, I've worked in finance.
Sure.
And I remember having a brief conversation with a like financial analyst about the Beatles. I asked him if he could name a member of the Beatles. Would you possibly be able to guess, do you think, a name he might have thrown out in response to that question?
I don't know. Does he get Ringo? Ringo feels like people know who Ringo is, right?
He does not get Ringo, but he was pretty close. He guessed Billy Joel. So yeah, I don't know if your coworkers are really listening to music.
The Fifth Beatle.
I'm certain they're not listening to some of the examples that got thrown out. I saw like Jeff Rosenstock get named as an example of coworker music.
Oh, fuck off.
Maybe if you're like working in the back of a restaurant and like your coworker is like a line cook or something, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, like it with tattoos on his arms and his sleeves rolled up. Maybe that's
yeah.
Coworker media as a buzz concept that was really big this year. The idea is that you're deriding something for being for basic losers because you work with basic losers and all the media they like sucks. I feel like the coworker music is not even derisive to me. It's just like, what's an artist you could say that would have the biggest catch of the people you work with? And the answer is probably like, I don't know, Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Rowan or whatever. I don't feel like this concept even stacks up to me.
Yeah, I think there's too many variables going into this to actually have like a very like valuable site-wide discussion. I'll give this one a doom.
Yeah, dooming it. I feel annoyed with a lot of the discourse this month.
I mean, that's a pretty natural response to the stuff that Twitter talks about. I think, what were you expecting?
I thought in January and February, it was so silly and stupid. And now I'm just like, you guys are insufferable.
Yeah. Well, let's see how you feel about this one. This one I feel like is a pretty interesting one because I don't remember ever getting to the heart of what people were talking about here.
Okay.
But basically, when he texts that he's 20 minutes away, many women get that feeling.
What?
Like I said, I don't know what the girls are talking about here. They spent several days kind of like commiserating on this. Like, yeah, I'll get the text like I'm 20 minutes away and all of a sudden I'll start getting that feeling. Do other girls deal with this? And I was like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. And I was like, what? So like, you know, the internet has done a lot to democratize discussions, like, you know, across genders and stuff like that. But I still feel like there are certain times when like we're just not going to understand each other.
Yeah. And it's great because you could pick any demographic, any kind of person, and then just like go invade that space and see what they're talking about. But
yeah,
it's kind of like that thought experiment where if you taught a lion to speak, you wouldn't be able to have a conversation because your frames of reference would be so completely different from each other.
Yeah, good comparison. It's just a real, you know, if you know thing. And in this case, I did not fucking know.
I also have no idea what it means.
That leaves us in an interesting position because how do we rate this one?
I don't know.
I kind of want to give it the boom just because, like, clearly there is something going on like throughout the female population when it comes to this topic that, you know, is difficult even for them to express in a way
It's
in
so
public
ominous
that
too.
conveys
It doesn't
something I
sound like
know.
It doesn't sound like she's describing the ick, as they say.
No.
It sounds like it's a creeping Lynchian dread.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing is that without knowing specifically what they're talking about, I can imagine if I were in their shoes, a woman who were waiting for a man to show up at my house, ostensibly to have sex with me. I feel like that's, what they're talking about here.
That's the idea, right?
I feel like, yeah.
20 minutes away and suddenly like all of your your alarms are going off, but you can't articulate why.
I think I feel like I get it, without knowing it, I feel like I get it. So that might be enough to give it the boom for me.
I'm going to give it the boom just because it's really captured my imagination all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That one gets the boom. Boom. Next up. I don't know if we've seen any repercussions for this one yet, but the House voted on and passed a bill that could lead to the U.S. ban of TikTok.
So this continues to be a talking point, at least I know, on social media. I don't know where we're at legally. Sorry. I don't understand the system enough to understand where that's at legally.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling.
Yeah, I don't feel strongly about this one. Do you just want to give it a doom just because it doesn't really spark joy?
I'll doom it. If they ban TikTok for realsies and it's gone and we do this again next year, that'd get the big boom because it'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big moment if it happens. Going back to things that have already happened though. Next up. Love Lies Bleeding moviegoer arrested for indecent exposure. A24 capitalizes on the incident to promote the movie. Do you remember this?
Oh, right. Super drunk dude, right? Jerking off in the theater, falls asleep. Is that the idea?
Yeah. Love Lies Bleeding, which was that female bodybuilder movie starring Kristen Stewart and I think that actual female bodybuilder who auditioned for the part, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so dude who is super drunk went in just to crank his hog to it.
Yeah. I mean, dude looking to see some muscle mommies went in under the influence. I don't know, like, did he fall asleep during? Did he finish? And that's what put him out? I can't remember how exactly this went down.
I remember seeing the picture.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there was obvious signs of him having completed his task.
No evidence of discharge.
He probably just passed out with some whiskey dick, you would imagine.
But yeah, I think the bigger part of the story almost was that like A24 was like reblogging this with like, I don't know, what were they doing? Like some like cheeky emoji eyes or something like, you want to see this one, don't you? I mean, look.
Yeah, come look at the muscle mommies. This drunk guy really got excited about it.
I think a lot of people saw that as pretty tasteless.
Yeah, well, it's A24. What are you going to do?
A24 kind of on the wrong side of multiple narratives. I think we will see this year. This one just kind of kicking that off. I feel like this is boom worthy.
Anytime there's a penis being passed around in the popular culture to be giggled at, I tend to lean boom.
Boom! This next one, kind of an interesting one because I feel like maybe even these next two, classic examples of what I would call Twitter bait. I think the person who posted them even... I can't remember if they were posted by the same person. I think that might have even been the case, but I think they even subsequently kind of went on record as saying like, yeah, I was just farming for engagement with these.
Right.
First one, was anything good about the 1970s?
Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember this discussion point and people getting, I can't believe, and then going through the labor of listing things that were cool. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that I found this to be extremely annoying, so I want to give this one a doom.
It's definitely in my doom category for sure.
I don't think we should be in the practice of kind of like rewarding bait unless it does kind of like result in some truly illuminating discourse. So yeah, this one's going to get the doom from me.
Whenever anybody follows up with the, I was just faking to get clicks and engagement and to piss you off to troll you.
This was actually a sociological study that has now been completed.
I always default to, no, you were dumb, and everybody knew it.
Next one, we're staying in the same mode. Although I will say, I can't believe this turned into such a thing because this is maybe like if Twitter discourse was a fighting game and it came out and you open it up and you only had 8 characters to play as before you could unlock any other guys.
Right.
This would be one of those default 8 characters.
Okay.
Is liking the catcher in the rye a red flag? So I guess March was such a slow month that we returned to relitigating the value of The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger.
Wow, Salinger's back.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys not talk about this enough in high school? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's weird. Hey, is The Great Gatsby actually about excess, and does it glorify
Huge Doom for me. I'm slamming my fist on the Doom button for this one over and over again.
Doom all the way. Doom all the way.
Anyone who fell for that, all of you who fell for that, shame on you.
Here's my hot take. I don't even think liking Ayn Rand is a red flag anymore because it's a green flag to imagine that anybody's reading books anymore.
Sure. We got a little more to go before we get out of this little dark tunnel we're in, though.
Okay.
Because TikTok is accusing film majors of being pretentious again.
Okay. Yeah.
Another TikTok video going around of somebody being like, oh, isn't it annoying when you ask a film major their favorite movie and instead of saying The Hangover, they say a 4-hour Bulgarian black and white silent film from the 1920s?
It's got to be some of the most fatiguing discourse you could possibly have.
Doom it. It's a doom.
It baits you to want to go in there and be like, you realize that your culture is trash.
Yeah.
And like, maybe it's pretentious for them, but what you are is so much more grotesque.
Truly. Okay, next up, more movie talk. The end of Evangelion theatrical screenings.
Okay, I remember people were talking about this.
Yes, I remember specifically this kind of did feel like it sufficiently escaped both the spheres of like movie Twitter and anime Twitter for it to warrant its inclusion on the list.
Pretty basic chatter, though.
Sure.
I remember like the best it got was kind of like, this is like Weeb Super Bowl kind of discussion.
Which, there's a fun element of that. But also, I'm a fan of Evangelion. It's one of the animes I like. But it's one that kind of typically ignites more annoying versions of discourse than other animes, I would say.
Right.
And I think this round was kind of no exception to that rule. I don't really like seeing people talk about this franchise as much as I do enjoy interacting with the franchise itself.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, there was discourse. It deserves to be on this list. I just think it's Doom column, unfortunately.
That's fine with me. Let's stick it to the Doom column and move on. We're still at the movies, though, for this next bullet. More than 450 Jewish creators, executives, and Hollywood professionals sign an open letter denouncing Jonathan Glazer's Oscar speech.
Oh, right.
Jonathan Glazer, he had just made The Zone of Interest, a movie about the Holocaust that, given the current political climate, a lot of people were drawing comparisons and analog to the situation that is currently going on with Israel and Palestine. And considering that, Jonathan Glazer is a Jewish creative himself, a lot of other Jewish professionals, I think, bristled against the idea that he had maybe made a movie that a lot of people were interpreting as being anti-Israel.
I think this is so disgusting and gutless. I feel like it's disgusting and gutless beyond being a Zionist in Hollywood, which like is its own thing. But like the brand of Jewish creatives in the entertainment industry from day one has been like freedom of expression. So this kind of stuff is like nobody's happy to look at a letter like that, except maybe like your most like content farmy blue check libs on Twitter, What
annoys me here is like, I feel like this is a thing you always see. If these Hollywood types are upset about something, they're always going to be signing some kind of open letter. Which, again, like you said, it's kind of cowardly. For once in my life, I don't even care about what the cause is, even if it's something I disagree with. Like, in this instance, I want to see some Hollywood creatives actually take some action, form like a Springfield-esque mob, and just go get them, If they had done that back when, like, Roman Polanski was doing his thing instead of signing that famous letter, maybe the industry would be a very different place these days.
Maybe. Would you sign an open letter demanding that Jonathan Glazer stop making respectable but somewhat unfortunate to sit through things like Zone of Interest and go back to making things like the Virtual Insanity video by Jamiroquai?
Hey, you didn't see anybody signing any letters against the Virtual Insanity music video. You can say that much, right? People fucking love that one.
They loved it.
I think this one's a doom.
Yeah, I'll doom it.
Next up, reading this one is absolutely crazy because it is the kind of phrase where you look at it and you're like, God, we could have never known. We could have never known how this would have blown up and completely dominated the rest of the year. This is one of those rare bullets where we get introduced to a few characters that will go on to be some of, good qualifications for the protagonists of the year, I would say.
Oh man, I think I might know what's about to happen.
Well, let me ask you this question then, because it's a question that Twitter was debating all week back in March. Will this child who eats Costco food on TikTok grow up to resent his father?
Oh man.
So here they are. We meet the Costco guys.
We're Costco guys.
Yeah.
How do you not boom this? Right?
I mean, you got it. They're the originators of the skill.
If nobody booms the emergence of the Costco guys, I am dead.
Sure. If nobody booms the chicken bake, was it even delicious in the first place? You got to wonder. But yeah, just so fascinating to this is why this list is such an interesting historical document, because
you had no way of knowing when you wrote those words.
Right. Yeah. And it's proof that it's not written in in a retrospective, because if I had done something like that, this bullet would have just been Costco guys. We didn't even know them as that back then. We were just worried about this kid, really.
Let's say earnestly, how many people do you think have tweeted earnestly that the Costco guys are industry plants?
Maybe that's discourse still to come. But we got to talk about this one. Like I've written here, the main point of discourse around these guys initially was is it good that this kid is doing this stuff? Should we be watching this a little more carefully?
Yeah. Is it this guy's exploiting his family for his social media shit post to try to get engagement? Is that ethical? Guess what? That conversation, nobody's had that conversation in months.
Right. We've left that one in the fucking dust because all we care about are those cookies and the Rizzler.
Well, did this conversation happen again when the Rizzler showed up? Nope.
I don't think so. Yeah.
The idea that we had integrity about the idea of children on social media, that's out the window. The Costco guys, they're like icons now.
Yeah. Definitely will not be the last time they show up in this list, I'm pretty sure. But, for this inaugural entry, I feel like there's no other choice but to boom it.
I almost wonder, will any Costco guys related line item this year get the doom, is what I wonder.
Sure. Very strong contenders for a boom shutout, no doubt.
Definitely.
Boom! Next up, prepare for a little more fatigue to set back in probably, because we have more food delivery discourse to talk about. This time specifically, based on what I've written here, people were talking a lot about the concept of door dashing a cup of coffee, and again, just delivery versus frozen meals. So we were not done 2 months later. This popped back up. One of the first major discourses of the year. We're still going. We got to hash out how we feel about DoorDash and Uber Eats. Does this make you a bad person for using these? Is it acceptable in some cases? Are you an ableist if you're anti-DoorDash?
Yeah, or what about the environmental impact?
Clear-cut doom for me.
Doom big time. I'm not having any fun.
I was going crazy when this popped back up. I was like, still? Again?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first line item about DoorDash discourse when it was about being kinder to the delivery drivers, what you owe them, what they owe you, my ears perked up more because I'm more interested in person-to-person kindness, but I can't get involved with shaming people for ordering their coffees. I can't summon a feeling about it.
Big doom. Next up, independent horror movie Late Night with the Devil features brief use of AI-generated images.
Yeah, I remember this. It was like the title cards, right?
Something. I think just some brief cutaways to some shots on a TV or something with title cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
People were very upset. I'd never wound up seeing Late Night with the Devil. I am a movie guy. I enjoy, a little independent horror movie for sure. It's got that one actor from The Dark Knight, and I think he was in Suicide Squad or whatever that pops up every now and then. I think that guy's got a good face. He looks kind of like a classic 70s actor.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him in a bigger role.
A good get for a little micro budget movie.
I think one of the reasons why I never wound up seeing this one was because I got so sick of hearing people argue over whether its brief use of AI compromised the entire project.
Yeah. And plus it felt like so much attention being paid to a movie that maybe you would watch on streaming and have 5 minutes of afterglow thinking about,
I think this is probably another Doom-worthy one.
It's a Doom for me. I just can't get behind the tone, the March tone. The whining March tone is doing nothing for me.
What is it about March, do you think, maybe that had us in this kind of mode?
All of the joy is funneled into my birthday, and there's none left over for the discourse.
Oh, yeah, that does make sense. Next up, Joni Mitchell's music returns to Spotify.
Oh, yeah, she was like, me too.
Yeah, I guess if Neil's going back, I'll go too. People were very happy about it, but I think echoing something I may have said at the time, that kind of feels like being very excited about a new parking lot going up.
Very good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's a sharp line right there.
Yeah, I'll probably give this one a Doom, though.
Yeah, I'm dooming it. Sorry,
Yeah.
Joni. Love it, though. Love your music.
Let's all temper how excited we get about artists putting their music on like the worst streaming service when it comes to, paying those artists for their music.
You can privately be excited that you get to make a playlist, but
Exactly.
Maybe it's bootlicker behavior to post about it joyously on social media.
All right, next one. This one turned out to be pretty big for the month. Documentary exposes widespread abuse at Nickelodeon.
Okay, yeah. So then there was like the stuff you always got the feeling was going on with those kids, and they made a documentary about it.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact title of this documentary, but it had to do with a lot of those young adult shows that were very popular on Nickelodeon for within a certain era of that channel. I think this was largely after my time, but I do remember some of the early examples, like your Drakes and Joshes.
Yeah, I feel like I would trust the working conditions of Big Justice with the oversight of AJ.
Sure.
Far before I would trust the working conditions of a network television production, because these people are fucking freaks.
Who's the main guy? Dan Schneider?
Dan Schneider. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff came out about him in particular, but I believe even before this documentary dropped, like you mentioned, a lot of open secrets within the industry. People knew this stuff was going on.
I think the thing people definitely didn't know that was a huge part of the discourse was one of them, Drake or Josh, came on and explained in kind of horrifying detail one of sexual abuse he received from one Nickelodeon producer. And when that producer was to be sentenced, all of these celebrities showed up to be like, he's a good guy, this was a mistake, be easy on him, that kind of shit was going on.
I'm of two minds about this one, because I do feel like, it is always good when these kind of things come to light and, are therefore able to be stopped. But there's a weird kind of gross rubbernecking aspect to having something as kind of tragic and toxic as this kind of repurposed for the streaming event of the week that everyone talks about. Hey, remember when all of those kids got molested at Nickelodeon? We could probably get a real Tiger King moment out of that.
Yeah, there is an exploitation. And I remember there was even discourse at the time that this thing's weird because it's on streaming, but it has clear ad breaks in it where it fades out and fades in and recaps everything. I almost wish I could get in there, Operation the board game piece by piece and be Drake going on camera to talk about his sexual exploitation is such a brave and incredible thing for a public person to do. You want to boom him. And then exposing bad actors, you want to boom it. And then the its own cynical industry shit, you want to doom it. It's tough.
It's tough. I'll defer to you on this one. Where do you feel like you want to come down on it?
I'm just feeling the wind blowing slightly one way. I'm going to boom it.
Okay.
Because I do think that it's ultimately really good discourse to be and who knows how much of a goldfish memory the culture will have.
Yeah.
But to be maybe when you see a child actor on television, you should be worried about them.
That's a good point. This might be valuable information to have going forward in the future.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's boom it.
We're booming it.
Boom! Next one, I think this might be the first bullet that I kind of directly based the phrasing on after like a very popular tweet or or like a news headline that kept going around.
Okay.
For comedic effect.
Right.
But Steve from Blue's Clues knew exactly what we needed after the Nickelodeon documentary. Do you remember this? This is a thing that has happened on the internet every now and then. I think starting around the pandemic, the dude who played Steve from Blue's Clues, who the internet has always had a very like keen interest in based on like just his career. Like I think the fact that he disappeared from Blue's Clues when a lot of people who would be of the age to know who he was back then and still be interested in him.
Right. Our chuggiest millennials, he was there in their living rooms.
He disappeared from that show without a very strong explanation of what was going on. And then when we all kind of got old enough to start looking into what happened, I think a lot of hearsay started going around, most of which was pretty interesting and you wanted to believe. I think I think people were like, yeah, he stopped doing Blue's Clues because he wanted to like start like an acid rock psychedelic band with the Flaming Lips.
I remember the versions of this. Yeah, there were all kinds of some dark ones too about him dying and things like that.
There were other ones where it's like, yeah, they fired him from Blue's Clues because he started to lose his hair or something like that.
Right.
I think it was like a mix of multiple different things, but that generation of people have always had a very, warm fondness for this guy as a result. I think that's going to result, whenever you've got a guy talking directly to a generation of small children, unless, something horrible comes out about that guy, which has not happened here.
No, it's so far.
So what he does, I guess every now and then, is like he pops on the internet and makes like a video where he is extremely close to the camera, Blue's Clues style, addressing the audience, being like,
right,
hey, it's your buddy Steve. It's good to see you after so long. We're both adults now. Look at you. You're doing great. I bet, in your moments of doubt, you never thought you'd be doing this great. But, I know everybody struggles with stuff. So if you want to tell me about anything you've been going through lately, I'm here to listen. And then he'll just stare at the camera for like 30 seconds or something while you are ostensibly supposed to be telling him what's been going on with you.
Elmo style.
And then he'll go like, oh, yeah, that's crazy. Oh, man, you really went through it. Oh, you're so brave. You're so brave for going through all that.
It's like a garish imitation of that genuinely powerful clip of Fred Rogers after he retired, when he like addresses the kids who grew up watching him that one last time, and he's like, I hope that I was able to tell you that you were special.
Yeah.
Like that's such an incredible, classy moment. And I mean, Fred Rogers is like a saint on the earth who everyone loves. And I feel like Steve is definitely trying to model that.
Sure. And, I feel like that comes from a good place. I don't want to like knock him for trying.
No.
But like, it's an interesting insight on people from around our generation that apparently this works on them.
Yes.
Like based on this phrasing of the headline, he knew exactly what we needed. And I guess what we needed was just like for a television star from our childhood to pretend to be listening intently while we were like, I'm really bummed out about Drake and Josh getting molested.
I remember there were clips going around on TikTok of people weeping, saying, I just watched the Steve video.
Yeah.
This Blue's Clues shit, it feels like a perfect storm that exposes the nerve of that terrible, that unfortunate millennial trait of like, having our arrested childhoods right at the surface, and like any reference to them in current media being able to turn us into buffoons.
Sure. We're all like, we've got like a weird like sleeper cell chuggy gene.
Yeah.
Always able to be triggered. I'll give this one a boom.
I want to boom it too. I'm once again in that place where I'm like, I don't feel like immediately it has boom written all over it, but I've kind of talked my way there.
Yeah. So I'll give that one a boom. Boom! Next up, another item where it's like, who could have known that this would go on to be like such a major A-plot in the year? Future and Kendrick Lamar diss Drake on new Future album.
Okay, yeah, this is another one of those, like, the story's coming, right?
Yes. You would have no way of knowing just reading this sentence.
But the funny thing is, I can't even really remember what this diss was. I don't even really remember what they said. I just kind of remember it being a thing people were talking about.
So I think throughout the album, Future obliquely addressed Drake multiple times, but the message was never anything more disrespectful than like, you think we're tight? You have done some shit to me that I am not really cool with. And as a result, we are not as tight as you think we are. I'm not sure if I like you very much right now.
Yeah, this is my least favorite kind of diss, by the way. I don't like I know about what you did with you know who, and if people found out, you know what would happen.
I understand it a little more in this context because it does feel like it was some pretty personal business with Drake and Future. I think what happened was that Drake slept with a woman that Future was interested in, and that resulted in some bad blood between them. The Kendrick Lamar thing, knowing where this would wind up, even more innocuous because like he had that guest feature on Like That. And I think the main message of that was like, yeah, Drake, you and Cole had that song where you said that you guys and me are the big three of rap. There is no big three. It's just me. I'm the only really good one. You guys are not on my level.
There's no big three. There's just big me was definitely a line that people like stuck with. I remember.
But like when it comes to shit that rappers have said to each other, kind of more on the innocuous side of things, I think, you know?
Very gentle. Yeah. Considering where this goes. I don't know that I can necessarily award this a boom just for how good the story gets later.
Yeah. I mean, people were already very excited about it for sure. And they were anticipating that, you know, this would have repercussions. So I do feel like it's boom worthy personally.
Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of in the middle, so I'm happy to go for the boom.
Okay. Boom! This one will probably tie the knot on this little subplot. Again, maybe this all should have been one bullet, but Kate Middleton revealed to have cancer.
Oh, yeah. Can't boom that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be so weird to boom that?
I mean, it'd be weird to boom that news. Booming the moment where all of these schizos who are just having a lot of fun talking about, you know, Kate Middleton being shipped off to some obscure island to live the rest of her life in slave labor or something.
Right.
Getting their whole asses shown when they're like, actually, we thought it best that she take some time outside of the media eye to have some cancer that she has dealt with.
And we were like, hey, they're really clamoring about this. Do you guys mind if we just like Photoshop you into some weird images that are really easy to catch us on?
It's a good moment where we get to see some Twitter users have some comeuppance. And as a result of that, I'm tempted to give it the boom.
I feel so unstrongly about it that I don't think I can doom your boom, really. So I think you kind of get the momentum here.
Let's stick with it. Boom! Next up, another one. We see a lot of seeds being planted in March that would, you know, eventually bloom within the subsequent months.
Yeah.
Sean Diddy Combs flees the U.S. as federal agents raid his Los Angeles property in sex trafficking inquiry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was this okay? So then was the video of him beating on his girlfriend from the previous year, like the end of the year or something?
I think that might be right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of like we're in a middle data point of the timeline. But it seems like a less exciting data point than the ones we're going to get later.
Yeah. I think that's fair. But do we want to give it a boom just kind of for, you know, I do feel like this was kind of the inaugural moment that Diddy had in 2024.
But did this have that much discourse? I feel like the video of him with his girlfriend had a lot of discourse. The stuff after it had a lot of discourse. I don't remember that much being said about this.
All right. So do you want to give this one the doom?
I got to give it I'm not like, you know, I don't have my pitchfork. I don't have my torch, but I'm dooming it, I think.
That's fine. That's fine with me. We will have future Diddy incidents to talk about, some of which definitely more illuminating than this one. Next up, Baltimore bridge collapses after being struck by cargo ship.
Okay, yeah.
This is a pretty wild video if you saw it.
Yeah, I remember this. And I remember there being like a lot of goofy tweets about it too.
Yeah?
Yeah. People connecting some dots to other things. I can't cite you a specific. I just remember people be talking about this a lot.
Hard thing to make jokes about, although, you know, immediately I'm trying to make some kind of Red Hot Chili Peppers pun under the bridge. It's just not coming to me.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one? I almost want to doom it just because, like, I would not be able to tell you this happened this year off the top of my head.
I don't feel strong. I don't feel strong enough to boom your doom. I got to doom it too. Sorry, cargo ship guy.
Next up, this was a pretty interesting one. Probably the rare good example of Twitter discourse arising from a response to a TikTok video. I was so confused by what was going on at this moment, though, or at least like I had so little information, so little formative information, that I had to include a question mark within a parentheses in the middle of this one.
Okay.
So, spiritual TikTok influencer, question mark? I just had no idea how to describe this person. Spiritualist TikTok influencer raps about curing kidney disease with vibes. Do you remember this woman?
I do remember this woman. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Pretty classic white dreadlocked person archetype.
Yeah. Really disgusting, crunchy hippie.
Yeah. Doing like a TikTok rap about how like I used to do cocaine and party, but now I am into crystals and I cured my kidney disease with the power of healing spiritual energy.
I'm almost surprised this woman didn't become like an all-year punching bag. It was such a powerful, Star Wars kid-esque piece of clown media.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that I think we get an identical woman in a future point of discourse that I spent probably most of that week thinking was the same girl, but wasn't.
Oh God, was this one on a podcast?
I can't remember. I think this one's probably worth the boom.
Yeah, it was really funny. I'm just almost surprised it didn't, we weren't still making jokes about this a little longer than we were.
Definitely. All I hope is that I'm able to find this video so I can include it as the outro music for this episode.
Surely she deleted, right? Surely the amount of hate that comes your way after posting something like that, surely she's deleted, but I'm sure somebody's backed it up.
She's probably just coasting on the vibes, riding above all that hate, So a little Twitter discourse isn't going to get someone like that down.
I used your negative vibes to cure my psoriasis.
Yeah. Boom! Next up, we have another example of something a phenomenon we kind of talked about a little bit on the last episode, with a similar same culprit as last time as well. We've got The Cut publishing a personal essay by a young female writer proselytizing the benefits of marrying an older man.
Okay.
So not as good as the financial journalist being scammed out of $50,000, but The Cut was still forcing its way into public discourse a month later.
Yeah, we are giving op-eds to the fucking weirdos, to goofballs.
Possibly as a way of just showing you their asses. I don't know.
Yeah, what's the Cut's angle? Well, they won't tell you.
Yeah.
I remember this. I do remember this article.
Yeah, I don't know if it's boom-worthy in the way the other one was boom-worthy, though.
It doesn't feel boom-worthy to me. It really feels like the bar was set high by the lady who got scammed.
Definitely. Next up, we've only got a couple more here. Beyonce releases country-influenced album Cowboy Carter.
Boy, it really felt like all anybody was talking about for a solid month. Like it absolutely jammed the culture. It exploded. It seemed to be having aesthetic carryover of like, countrifying like urban fashion trends, and then just as soon as it had rampaged through the discourse, it feels like it is completely evaporated. Are people listening to this album anymore?
Was Cowboy Carter fully memory hold? Is that what happened?
It feels like it. When was the last time you heard somebody mention this record?
I don't know, but it was a big talking point in March. I remember there were even like little like spin-off mini discourses. Like I remember people were specifically talking about like the Jolene cover. That was a big one. There was like the Blackbird cover. People talked a lot about the covers on the album.
Yeah. And I mean, look at that horse.
Still one of my favorite musical moments of the year, probably. I am tempted to boom this just because I always enjoy when an album comes out and the entire site is talking about it. Of course, there is a much bigger example of this happening this year that is still to come down the pipe.
True.
So I don't know if this one deserves a boom in the way that future one so obviously deserves a boom.
I think you got to boom it just for how big it briefly was.
Okay.
It was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm definitely fine booming this one. Look at that horse. Look at that horse. Look at that horse. All right, down to the final two here. Not a lot of substance here, although, there's definitely a lot of runway here for people to stretch this out for multiple days. We discussed reasons why Twitter users are single.
I mean, it's a good setup. It's a funny setup, for sure.
I mean, where's the end of this one, though,
Yeah.
It's keep going and going and going.
Too amorphous, too nebulous. Can't boom it. But it made me giggle because I thought, oh, yeah, you can dunk on Twitter users. That's funny.
For sure. We're going to doom that one?
We'll doom it, yeah.
Final point of discourse for March 2024. I do not remember this one too specifically, although it does have some potential. TikTok user, again, we're back on TikTok. TikTok user with veneers and... Let me restart this cadence.
Sure.
TikTok user with veneers and husband both have expensive monthly car payments. There's no way to say that without okay, so the thing is that both this TikTok user and her husband have expensive car payments, but it sounds more like I said on the list, this TikTok user has veneers and a husband, and she has expensive car payments.
I don't remember this, unfortunately.
This TikTok user with veneers made a TikTok about how both she and her husband have very expensive car payments. And I think people latched onto it as almost like a real life example of that drill tweet about the candles. Can someone help me balance my budget? And he's spending $1 million on candles a month or something.
And look at your teeth.
But I don't remember too much specifically about this one.
Yeah, it's a funny sentence, but I don't think I can boom, unfortunately.
I'm probably unfortunately gonna have to give it the doom. Man, I am a little, that's just kind of the nature of the way this game works. I'm always disappointed so far when we end a month with some kind of just mildly underwhelming discourse.
I thought veneers, husband, and car payment delivered in its own little way.
Sure.
Just as a fun thing to experience in the room.
Yeah, it's no conversation about how sorority girls are the reason that men don't want Western women anymore, though.
Yeah, so I'm very curious about the tally this month, by the way.
I think, if you were to kind of guess how the tally wound up based on the atmosphere in the room as we were going through it, the doom column blew the boom column away this month. It's we got 24 in the doom column, looking down 15 in the boom. So
ooh, almost a 10-point gap.
If you were annoyed by the discourse on Twitter in March 2024, that might have been why.
Will we have a shittier month this year, I wonder?
I mean, we're definitely gonna see. We'll see what the future has in store for us. Starting with the next episode, we're going to be talking, of course, about April 2024.
But I'm a discourse addict, and much like a gambling addict, it doesn't matter if I'm up or I'm down. I'm still getting those endorphins, baby.
That's true. Just let me hear all this dumb shit that people talked about, right? I don't care if I enjoy it. That's why I'm on this site.
Inject it right into the last good vein on my body, to continue the addiction metaphor, which of course is my penis vein.
That was March 2024. We'll be back next time to talk to you about April 2024 on Twitter. But for now, I've been Trevor.
I've been Dylan.
That's it for Discourse. We'll see you for the next one.
We're Discourse dudes. Of course we have fashioned ourselves in the style of punk rock revolutionaries.
I've been chilling in the mountains of Peru, drinking ayahuasca with the shaman stew. Cup of champagne till they shift the mood. I've been learning about myself, finding out my truth. I've been healing my soul, tried the best medicine. I've been learning shit from the aliens, like how we're all connected to the pyramids, and how we used to use them for time traveling. Now I'm astral projecting, remembering how to navigate the ether. Sound heals didgeridoo, singing bowls every lyric. Medicinal truth, sound transforms DNA. My mind's making things move. Whoa. Kidney infection, I healed that too. I've been doing things your brain can't compute. They'll say it's magic, but you could do it too. Just open up your heart and let it channel through.